Let's just get right on into TWIG. Welcome to TWIG, your weekly, geekly, family-friendly news show that tackles everything from the absolutely greater than or at least equal to E3 week to Apple's yearly conference with some games in between. If you're listening on the podcast version of the show, be sure to give us a good review. Go click that like if you're over on YouTube, or come and listen live on Twitch every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, twitch.tv/Checkpoint Church. I am Nerd Pastor Nate. I'm really a pastor of this church plant online called Checkpoint Church, and we are going to get started tonight, as we always do, with our What Have You Been Watching, Playing, and Reading? And we want to hear from you. What have you been watching, playing, and reading? If you're watching after the fact, let us know in the comments. Or over on Spotify, I found out you can actually respond in the question feed or whatever. So I'd love to see that actually be utilized. Or if you're live, let us know over in the chat what you've been watching, playing, and reading. I'm going to let our guests introduce themselves and also tell us their answer. Take it away.
Hi, I am Mayfly. I have been not doing any of those things because I've been recovering from a drive across the country for the past half a week. So I have been sleeping, and more sleeping when I am not working. So that's been me.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So whenever I travel in particular, I typically end up playing phone games if I'm not driving. And sometimes I'll even pick a game, like a Fire Red or something that I'm super familiar with, just to play to minimize the boredom that's super low stakes. But you were traveling for quite a while and quite a long ways. And so I get it.
I was actively driving as well. So
yeah.
The dogs had a great time. But
yeah. I'm assuming they were playing Fire Red. One paw at a time, just A and B button. Yeah. And then kind of like Twitch plays Pokemon. It was basically that concept.
Yeah. Nugget was using her needle paws on my legs, and my legs were the buttons. And so I have bruises all over my leg.
Very precise. Very precise with the needle claws. That would work out well.
Yeah.
But maybe not quite as fun for the Claude. I have been watching, as usual, all of the anime of the season. I try to catch up on everything that I can. I'm super enjoying all of them right now, really enjoying Windbreaker above the rest. I've started a couple new Let's Plays. I enjoyed watching one person in particular play through Fallout, the very, very first Fallout, and so I've started his Fallout 2 Let's Play. I'm going to watch the first couple episodes, just kind of get a vibe of, could I play Fallout 2? And if I feel like I couldn't, then I'm going to finish his Let's Play. If I feel like I can, then I'm going to at least enjoy what he teaches me in the first couple episodes. After having watched the full Fallout 1 Let's Play, I have firmly decided that I could have never played that game. Hoo boy. I feel like it's a Dwarf Fortress-esque game where you kind of had to be there. Not to say that it's necessarily bad, because holy cow, the lore that it built and it set up, I didn't realize just how much was already instituted. Very impressive in that way, and I'm sure very impressive for what a computer could do at the time. But the minutia, it reminds me of Earthbound, honestly, where you have this full, if you don't have the manual, why are you even bothering trying? That's kind of how it feels. So yeah, I don't think that one's for me, but we'll find out. I'll give it a try if it looks like it adds up. So that's one Let's Play that I'm just getting started with and super excited about. I am also playing a game that has been a long time coming. For those of you that know me pretty well, you know that I am a diehard fan of a very niche game for the Nintendo DS called Hotel Dusk Room 215. I even did a video essay on it on my former YouTube channel back whenever I was in seminary. I love this game so much. And there's a sequel that was released in the UK that never came around to the States that it's very hard to get a copy of. And so I managed to secure a hold and start playing through it. And it has been an interesting play so far. It is interesting to be a no longer 10-year-old playing a game that a 10-year-old enjoyed. So we'll see where this one continues to go, but the art style is undeniable. The aesthetic is so nice. Another aesthetic that I'm quite enjoying is I just started playing Paradise Killer again. I've started this game 3 times and never could figure out how to play it. So this time I finally have listened to the instructions, and now I'm doing pretty good, following along pretty nicely and managing to play through it. And I'm enjoying the city pop more than just about anything else. And I'm reading Timeline for our book club, and also reading Fourth Wing, which is a book that I held off for a long time. I'm not the biggest fan of YA and especially YA fantasy, but it's gotten real good. I'm about halfway through and I'm super enjoying it. So this one has been the one that has gotten me in, and I'm appreciating it so far. So we'll see if I end up going into some of the sequels. Let's look through the chat real quick and see what other people are watching, playing, and reading in the community. Z is watching Star Wars The Acolyte, playing Tears of the Kingdom, and reading The Invention of Wings. Sneaky is reading Good Omens, playing Cyberpunk, and watching The Stanley Cup and Star Wars Acolyte. Let's see. DGC watching Blue Period, hopefully with us. We are watching that with our anime club. The season 1 is being watched by the anime club in Checkpoint server. Gunsmith Cats streams and nerdy sermons. Playing Apollo Justice, very nice. I love Apollo Justice. Reading One Piece fanfiction and the Bible. Very nice. Sugar Haiku is just finished Blue Period, starting Given for Pride, playing, finished Hades, and continuing another code Recollection, and reading Timeline and Muyo and Roji's BSI. I don't know what that last one was, but good. Very cool. Continue letting us know what you've been watching, playing, and reading in the chat. Mayfly, any thoughts on any of those? Anything stand out for you?
No.
Yeah,
I probably should watch Star Wars, but that was more of a other person's thing.
Sure.
I would say, aside from like specific characters, then it was my thing. So,
yeah. I totally get it. I feel like I'm on the back burner with Star Wars just because I couldn't keep up and I fell behind, and now I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to get back up on the horse. Eventually, I'd love to like do just one big binge catch up. But honestly, I feel like there's so much that I left behind, even being a kid and like missing the cartoons, that now I need to go back and watch Clone Wars and all this stuff. And I'm like, I just simply don't have time.
I do enjoy Clone Wars, but I do love Ahsoka.
Eventually, maybe, hopefully. I'll stumble upon so much time someday, and it's going to be just amazing. I'll just watch all of the things all of the time, as if I'm not already doing enough of that. All right, well, folks, we're going to get into some news for tonight. We're going to be powering through what I have titled as the Please-Stop-Worshiping-E3 mega breakdown. I have gotten so tired of people hating on Summer Game Fest. It's not perfect. It doesn't deserve to be worshipped either, but the nostalgia bait of E3 is so annoying. There were so many things that happened in the last week. And if you don't think that this was an incredible week for the video game world, then your eyes are just closed, because there's so much that happened. I really can't think of there not being something for someone at one of the actually 12 events that happened over the past 7 days. This, maybe it's trying to replace E3, whatever. E3 is gone, and this has been a fantastic event. You don't even have to love the Summer Game Fest night that was Friday, but the slew of showcases that came along with it. It's been an excellent week to be a gamer. So we're going to talk about those things for a while. This will be our bigger chunk than we normally do in the beginning. But I wanted to go kind of bit by bit and in the actual order that the events have happened. So on Friday, as I mentioned, was the actual opening to Summer Game Fest. This was the thing that is actually hosted by Jeff Keighley and really brought about a lot of exciting things. This is one that I really wanted to highlight because I got so mad on Twitter. I try to really not tweet, because I know that if I tweet, I'm going to get salty. And I know that if I get salty, I'm going to get myself in trouble. But Jeff Keighley put out a tweet after Summer Game Fest and was like, how would you rate this, gamers? And they were like, D, terrible. And I'm like, you all need to calm down. It was great. And so I wanted to highlight two things that I think alone make it above a D. And that is that during a time where we are seeing so many layoffs and we are seeing so many games postponed, we're seeing so much of the C-suite raining down and tearing apart the lives. We saw the formation and solidization and announcement of two new studios, really. Outer Sloth was a big surprise. So if you're familiar with Inner Sloth and the games that they make, you definitely know Among Us. Everybody knows Among Us, but they've also got a couple other games under their arm. And they decided to launch a development studio that is Outer Sloth, where they kind of publish and pick up indie games and those that are working on games and share them. And I think that this is the best possible use. I do think there's always danger in forming things like this. There's always the risk of eventually having to do closures, that kind of thing. But right now, we don't need to think about that. We need to think about the celebration of something new that is being formed. And then the second thing that was amazing to me was Blumhouse Games, which I always thought it was Blumhouse, but Jeff kept saying Blumhouse, and so I'm just going to go with it because he had direct access to the guy. So I'm assuming that was it. But he showboated like 8 games, I think, that were going to be produced by Blumhouse. And so that is an incredible suite of games that is coming out of the horror franchise, which, take it or leave it, their movies are okay, but some of them are great and some of them are really not great. But regardless, they are an entity. And now the entity is starting to employ gamers and those that want to develop games. And we love to see that. So those were the 2 highlights for me that I wanted to highlight above everything else, that if you aren't celebrating those, then I cannot possibly relate. Like, those 2 things were the things that really highlighted Summer Game Fest for me as this was a fantastic thing, because we saw the formation of the future of the industry in these 2, and I love to see that. So let's get into some of yours, Mayfly, before I got 2 more, but I don't want to take up the whole time here.
No, that's okay. I didn't get to watch most of these because I was either traveling and or working, but I did get to see they've released that story trailer for Dune Awakening during Summer Game Fest, which I thought was pretty neat. I'm big excited for that. The whole alternate timeline thing really piques my interest. And then, unbeknownst to probably everybody at Checkpoint, I was a big Skate fan as a kid on Xbox. So to see them doing something with that again makes me really excited.
It was not everyone's favorite trailer. At least with the folks that watched it with us, they did not care for it. I don't know if the I think you should leave crowd have just died off, or if they were never a part of the gaming world. But hoo boy, that was a swing and a miss for our crew at the very least. They did not care much.
From what I saw, it gave me a big nostalgia heart. So we'll see if it lives up.
Yes. I think those are 2 good ones for sure. I'm curious about Dune Awakening. I enjoy the Dune world enough. It did give me like I'm interested to see how the story goes and how they continue to sort of go off of the commentary that it was trying to be, because I feel like there's almost an element of like, if it all went the way it was supposed to go, then does that make it still a commentary? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, it almost makes it like
yeah.
Oh, the cult was right. I don't know. I don't know if the cult should be right. So I'm very curious to see what they do. And especially knowing that it's going to be like an MMO experience. Like, what does that mean? Maybe they don't even really care about the story and they're just going to kind of present we knew you wanted to live in the Dune world, and so we're giving you the Dune world, which is fine. That's an acceptable thing to do.
I will be there regardless. Get me on Arrakis, please. That's what I want.
Absolutely. We also got surprised for fans of Alan Wake 2 with not just 1, not just 2, but 3 DLC expansions for Alan Wake 2, featuring the protagonists from Quantum Break and from Control, and then one that was the diner lady that was from one of the games. That was a big deal. So pretty huge thing to see those 3 characters get highlighted in a new DLC that were being expanded upon. So very cool, very good stuff to see from Alan Wake, and I appreciated that they dropped it right away. I haven't heard how it's actually doing, but I'm assuming that it's doing pretty good. Alan Wake 2 was such a big deal that there's no doubt in my mind that folks have hopped on it already. And then we got another look at Metaphor Fantasio, the Persona latest IP, which, if you don't like turn-based games, then this one's not going to do it for you. If you don't like Persona, this one's definitely not going to do it for you, because it oozed that Persona kind of aesthetic in its own way. I'm curious with this one as well to see what they do different from Shin Megami Tensei. And it doesn't look anything really like the school world that Persona typically goes for, but it also doesn't look quite as modern as SMT. So I'm wondering if they're going to go for a more historical. We'll find out where it actually goes. But there was a whole deep dive into it outside of Summer Game Fest, the event itself, which if you are curious about, you can certainly go check it out as well. Day of the Devs immediately followed the Summer Game Fest showcase, and we got a couple of exciting things there. One that I did not know was coming was Camp Spirit, which is a Cozy Grove sequel. I super enjoyed Cozy Grove. If you haven't played through it, it's probably somewhere on Game Pass or PS Plus or something. If you have a subscription, you could probably end up finding it, or you can find it pretty cheap, no doubt, over on Humble, because this was just a cute little indie game where you are kind of doing the Animal Crossing thing of slowly building a village up from scratch and meeting new villagers and that kind of thing, but in sort of a spooky way. And it's just a good one. It's a good one. It's one to definitely check out. The talk of the town in the indie scene for me has been this game called Arranger, a role puzzling adventure. It's a demo that we will probably end up adding to the list because I'm curious about it. I really don't know much beyond what we saw in the trailer. And then one that I'm particularly excited about was a game called While Waiting. And it is a game that is exactly that. It is filled with waiting. The whole point of the game is waiting and waiting on things. And there's like fidget buttons and it triggers your ADHD tendencies to try to want to do things while waiting. But in a hustle and bustle world, I'm here for whatever commentary While Waiting is trying to offer. Plus the aesthetic just looks really nice. What'd you think of Day of the Devs, Mayfly?
A couple things on there, completely opposite ends of my attention span spectrum. I don't know if you looked into either of these when you got the notes, but the first one that I put on is a first-person psychological horror thriller in 1984 East Germany. Looks real spoopy. It's called Karma: The Dark World. Looks real messed up. Looks real spoopy. And then the other one, it's called After Love EP, which is from the creators of Coffee Talk.
Oh, yeah.
About love and loss and, all those sad, but also, things that people go through in life. So very opposite ends of the spectrum from each other, which sounds about right for me, to be honest. So,
Yes, I am definitely excited, of course, for After Love EP. We did end up playing the demo for it a couple weeks ago. So you can potentially find the demo for that on our VODs somewhere back there. And yeah, I'm very excited to see this one finally come to fruition. It was definitely not what I anticipated it being after playing some of Fami's other games. But of course, this is posthumous. And so a lot of this had to be kind of revamped and rekindled and just tried to adhere to the original vision that Fami presented as close as possible. But I'm excited to have this one out in the world and love every new look that I get at it. I'm hoping that it can be another Goodbye Volcano High for this year and that we can continue to dive into some good old stories and hear some good things. It is
That's
one
cute.
that
And the
is
other one looks terrifying. So I'm ready to get the pants scared off of me, which is good.
I love it.
I like that.
I love it. I love the scary games as well. And I'll have to keep that one on my list, especially with the dystopian kind of like 1984-esque experience. Always here for that.
1984 East Germany, corporation controlling the minds of the people. There's some people in the screenshots with TVs for heads. It's a whole thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, I will add those two to my list as if After Love wasn't already on there. Then we had Devolver. Devolver had a showcase with Volvi, their little mascot that they've been working on. Not a whole lot from this one. It was a pretty short showcase. They really just kind of wanted to highlight a couple things that they've got in the barrel. And the one that sort of grabbed my eye, some of you may have played through, oh gosh, now I'm gonna have to look up what it's called. There've just been this series of games that have been 2D kind of games like, I'm gonna have to remember the name of the game. Katana Zero. So Katana Zero is like one of those games where you are playing in a 2D environment as a samurai in a weird like dystopian modern world. And I am here for that kind of gameplay. I don't know what it is about the 2D going through and just slaughtering people. Something about that and the stories that typically accompany it really interests me. And so this one is called Tenjitsu, coming out from Devolver. And I'm particularly excited to see more of that one going into kind of the gang underground experience. I love it. I'm here for it. And my brain may be devolving in the Devolver showcase as I'm trying to explain this game. But yes, Tenjitsu, good stuff. And after that, we went to the Future of Play showcase, which again was one that I didn't even plan on honestly watching this one. I probably was just going to scroll through and look through some of the things, but I saw some of the devs that I follow particularly closely announce that they were going to be making a big announcement during this. And sure enough, they did. Slay the Princess got a full expansion DLC, everything announced in Slay the Princess, the pristine cut. And I'm particularly excited for when that comes out. It is not just a little addition, but instead it adds additional endings, additional spinoffs, additional, stories, cutoffs, all the different things that are going to be happening. I cannot wait to get back into Slay the Princess. I didn't mention it earlier in my watch, play, read, but I started up another Let's Play of Slay the Princess as well. So I think that is my 4th Let's Play. Let's just say I'm obsessed with the variety that story can tell. And now it's just going to get even more. What'd you think, Mayfly?
My turn. You had put this on there, and I agreed with you because you guys know my taste as well as I do. Reka is a little witchy hut, foragey, autumnal, cute little Baba Yaga thing. And it looks so fun and so spoopy and so just right up my aesthetic alley. Like, maybe if my house had looked like this hut, I wouldn't be selling it. So it looks adorable. It looks so fun. It comes out in August. I'm very excited.
Yes.
It looks cute.
Yeah, and the Baba Yaga element of it, DGC, is that you are, Reka, I guess I'm not too familiar with the Baba Yaga lore, but maybe this is a real, like, in the lore assistant to the Baba Yaga?
Yeah,
or maybe they
the
just
spell
came up with
quest
that?
uncover the great mysteries of the legendary witch of the Baba Yaga.
Yeah.
So you're like uncovering her secret, basically, is what the blurb says on
Maybe
Steam.
a kind of like acolyte of somebody that's super interested in the Baba Yaga, wants to meet her, be her, worship her, any of those sort of things. Very curious.
Yeah. It looks super cute. I'm obsessed. So.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Yeah, I did. As soon as I saw that, I was like, I don't know if Mayfly has anything that she wants to call out from the future of play, but here's one that you might want to, because you should. It's right up your alley. Good stuff. The Wholesome Showcase. I love the Wholesome Showcase. I didn't put this on my list, but I did want to add in, for those of you that have never heard me rant and rave about Patch Magazine, I love Patch Magazine. It is a real-life print magazine. You can also get it digitally, that is created and themed around indie games. And in particular, they had a partnership this year with the Wholesome Showcase. So their next magazine is going to be a partnership with Wholesome. It's going to be totally themed around the Wholesome Showcase and games that were announced during it. And I think they're great. And I love them so much. And I loved to see them getting highlighted during this time. The two games that I picked out from this one are The Star Named Eos, which is a game that has been postponed and finally is coming out. It's going to be another heartwarming, heart-wrenching, sad story narrative game in which you are piecing together pictures to remember your history. And I love good games with pretty art, and this is certainly one of them. And then the other one just sounds adorable. I don't know much beyond the premise of it's called Tiny Bookshop because you're running a tiny bookshop, and I love books and I love tiny shops. So this works pretty well for me. I'm excited to play it. I hope that I have the time to actually invest into it, and I hope that it is a truly cozy experience. Mayfly, what you got?
I saw Tracks of Thought and I was immediately obsessed. Not only because it reminds me of like a modern setting Bug Fables, but it's also like kind of an alien-esque deck builder RPG, and it has a ladybug. What size is one? Which I have.
I remember
so you play as a ladybug, which I was obsessed with as a kid, hence the tattoo. And I don't think I've ever played a video game as a ladybug before. So now I'm obsessed. You like are on a train, and it's like, it reminds me of like Bug Fables, but on a train, but also a little bit of Murder on the Orient Express, but as Bug. And it's, yeah.
Yeah, I had to look it up, but this is a fun one. I remember watching the trailer and it's not an Ace Attorney in the sense that you're like building conversations. So you're trying to use cards to come up with the best possible conversation to convince the other person to let you buy or to be your friend or to whatever. And I think that's super cute and such a good idea for a game. So I'm excited to see where that one goes. Tracks of Thought.
It's called Tracks of Thought. Yeah. Tracks of Thought. It's so cute. It looks super cute.
I love it. And if I think about it, which I won't because this would take forever, if anybody wants to take the initiative and in the comment section of the YouTube video, put links to these trailers, hey, that'd be a cool thing to do that I'm not going to do, but that would be neat if you wanted to consider doing it, because there are so many trailers that we've mentioned and there are so many dates that may or may not be attached to them. So consider checking them out. The next showcase in order was the Latin American Games Showcase. Two of the ones in particular that I drew out this time were Mark of the Deep, which is very much a roguelike Hades-like kind of Hades clone, but it is pirates instead of the Greek gods and pantheon. And then Bittersweet Birthday. I don't know anything about this game, but I looked at the pixel art and thought it looked like something that I would play. And so I'm going to play it. And that's typically enough for me. You got good pixel art, I'm probably going to give you the time of day. What's next?
So I have a bit of an interesting one. I don't know, like I said, because I didn't actually get to watch a whole lot of these actual showcases, but there was one that I came across called Hollow Flowers. It is something that's still in the development stage. It's a transmedia project, so it's a short film, an animated series, a video game, and a comic that are all currently being created simultaneously. And it just looks, I love the art style. I love the concept art that they've put out. I don't know a whole lot like about it based off of like kind of what's been put out already, but it just looks so cool. It's like a little bit futuristic, post-apocalyptic, like there's some robots, there's some like I don't entirely know what it is, but it says that a teenager awakens to find that she's the last person in the world. Now her town is being destroyed by giant shadows. She must travel through her dreams and memories to find a way to bring her life back. But first she will have to discover how it is all tied to the death of her own mother. So like a very basic plot and premise. Teenager wakes up, everybody's gone. Somehow her mom's death is involved in this. But it's like this across all mediums project that they're working on, which I thought was really, really interesting. That I found in like the list of stuff showcased at this particular conference. So I thought that was really cool.
Wow.
That was the first one. The second one is called One Card, One Shot. It is a mafia sniper card game. So, like I said, two very opposite sides of a coin when it comes to me and my interests. One Card, One Shot Mafia is a mafia card game where you play cards and then you snipe people for the mafia.
Very nice. Yeah, I looked at it and immediately made me think of Buckshot Roulette, but there's no way they made that quick of a turnaround. So it just so happens that there's these two kind of very similar aesthetic games, maybe both inspired by Inscription, really, because I know that was Buckshot Roulette was pretty obviously inspired by the part one of that game. So maybe there's something to it, but I do love card games, and so I would be easily bought into this one, depending on how rigorous the actual card aspect of it.
It just looks cute, and then like when you don't like shoot the people, you just shoot the cards. You know what I mean? Right. So it's like it's a little violent, but it's not like that violent.
Very much the polar opposite of Buckshot Roulette. That is incredibly violent. Yeah, incredibly so. Good stuff. The next one was the Women-Led Games Showcase, of which I have highlighted two, one of which is one that has been on my anticipated list for a long time, and I cannot wait for it to finally release, I think this year, but it could be maybe into next year. But this is Phoenix Springs. It's a new point-and-click neo-noir adventure. I just love the aesthetic of this one. I love looking at it. I can't wait to find out more about it. I am a big fan of neo-noir as a genre. I'm a big fan of point-and-click as a game genre, and it just seems like it is something that is going to scratch all of my itches, and I cannot wait for it to come out. And then the next one is Solitaire, which is you are opening a cozy fortune-telling card-themed cafe and telling the fortunes of the people that walk into your cafe. And I am a fan of a good cozy game, especially if it's based around cards. As I mentioned just a second ago, big fan of card games. So both of these seemed to perk up my ears and get my interest. Next up.
Two that I have got. The first one is called The Heirloom. I tagged it in the notes as Creepy Lighthouse Game, which is fair. It is almost like a paper looking 2D, 2.5D environment sort of thing. It looks very much like it's made out of paper. Grandpappy has an old lighthouse, mystery, thriller, Scottish folklore, cool chick with red hair, puzzle thing. Looks real cute. Looks real spoopy. Looks fun. Release date in October.
Not a Moody Kim Possible, just a little bit.
Yeah, she's not a Moody. Well, her hair's a little bit more pink, but yes, correct, yes. And I loved Kim Possible as a kid, so that checks out. So, yeah. And the second one, going back to my weird tastes, it's called Dark Web Streamer. where you become an occult streamer on a 90s dark internet website in this horror RPG sim. So basically it's fully procedurally generated and you only stream stuff from the dark web on your stream. And it is supposedly fully procedurally generated, so you try and like stream as you survive, as your apartment gets increasingly more dangerous and haunted, as the stuff you're streaming obviously gets worse and worse because you're pulling it off of the bad sides of the internet. Like I said, y'all got a weird taste in games.
Showcasing the full variety. I think it's good. It's good. Next up was the Future Games Showcase, in which I've highlighted two that are particularly exciting. More DLC for games that I love. Dredge is getting DLC called The Iron Rig, and I particularly enjoyed this one and always looking forward to more exploration in that world. I know that the fishing wasn't like the most interesting part of that game necessarily, like the story, the mystery, the allure of the environment and the spooky sounds and all that stuff, but more places for that to happen and maybe expand upon the story feel good to me. And then one that has continually made the rounds on my TikTok feed of indie games is Screenbound. If you're not familiar with this one, it is where you are holding a Game Boy as you are controlling your character in third space. And so you are controlling them both in third space and in second space on a screen within a screen. And so it's got a kind of like zoom in, zoom out approach to two different play styles at once. I don't know how that's going to actually work. I so hope that there's a demo for that out right now because it will bump right on up to the top of my list. It's one, again, that I've just seen so much footage of, but they won't release a demo, and I really want to play it because it just seems so fascinating to be playing on the Game Boy while also playing the character. And you are also, I'm outside of the game playing my own body. I am also playing the game of life. So it's cool and good stuff. So that was the Future Games Showcase. The next really big one. So we mentioned, obviously the Summer Game Fest had a whole bunch of announcements, and then Xbox really brought out all the stops this year. Not going to lie. I watched the first half with Cameron plus Deanna, who was our special guest watching the Summer Game Fest with us as well. And this was a heck of a showcase. Really very good for Xbox. I don't want to like rail against them too hard because I think they do good work and Phil Spencer is a great figurehead and does good spokesperson stuff. But they've kind of suffered for a couple years now of not really bringing the heat. And they have a couple games here and there, but even the games they have, like the Starfield, tend to fall on their face or just aren't enough. Or people are like, oh, we were waiting for this forever, and then this and this and this and blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. But this time we got three pretty huge announcements that I wanted to mention, and then I see that Mayfly's got several as well, one of which I almost talked about. So Starfield is getting DLC, which is much anticipated. If you played Starfield, you know that the New Game Plus is a huge part of it, and so the fact that they're expanding upon that even further is a pretty big deal. And then Avowed, which is Obsidian's next game, that's a big deal. That is happening and being released and coming into the world. And then the one that I thought about saying, Mayfly, you just take this one, but I just can't. I can't give away Life is Strange.
All right. It's all right.
We also got an announcement of the next Life is Strange game, which is Life is Strange Double Exposure, and they're bringing back Max Caulfield, baby. It's so exciting. Hannah Tell is back as Max, and we are experiencing a whole new mystery, and her powers have changed just a little bit. I am obsessed with Life is Strange. I love the Life is Strange universe. Mayfly is also obsessed with Life is Strange and loves the Life is Strange universe. This is one of the things that we really agree on.
Yeah, it's one of the only things in games that I think Nate and I can both agree on consistently.
We are very cohesive here, and I'm so excited. They announced like the thing that everybody's upset because they're like, if you pay us $30 extra, we'll give it to you 2 weeks early. And I'm like, all I heard is that if I give you more money, I get it 2 weeks early. So is that a cool practice for games to have? I don't care because it's Life is Strange. I want to play the game.
Exactly.
So I'm going to.
And they know they can do that because it's Life is Strange.
1000%.
And because people have been waiting for, what is this, 2024? 10 years for a Max follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
So because I was like a freshman in high school when that game came out, and I had my first laptop. So
I mean, I guess if you count Before the Storm as being in that like storyline, even if it is a prequel,
like a direct follow-up, that's a prequel, direct follow-up to Max's story. We've been waiting 10 or 11 years.
1000%.
So I'll pay $80 to get it 2 weeks early. What do you mean? Like, that's no big, whatever. And I'm poor, so like, what do you mean?
I'm gonna eat it up. I'm so excited. Now, I don't know if you had the same reaction that I did as far as the art style. On one hand, it's updated in a lot of nice ways, but on
Yeah.
the other hand, it doesn't feel like it has quite
It,
the aesthetic
it
that I
doesn't have the
wanted.
kick. Yeah, it doesn't have the same kick as it did. Yeah, no, I
I
agree.
think you have also played what's the game where you're like guiding kids to cross the border? That
Root,
it is Route something.
root, root something. Root. I love that game. Why can't I think of it? I love the soundtrack. Root something.
96.
96. Road
It
96.
actually, it looked more like that to me.
Yeah.
That was the art
I
style that they
love
kind
Road
of went
96.
with.
Y'all haven't played Road 96? That's a great game. Good commentary. Go play Road 96.
Yeah.
Short
I
game.
still haven't played the prequel sequel. So I'm going to have to go back and play
Me
the second
neither,
one.
because I heard it was bad, so I
I
didn't. I
also
didn't
heard that
play
and I'm
the prequel
terrified
sequel.
because I enjoyed
And
the
I
game
heard
so
that, and I
much.
heard this, and I heard, yeah, I heard it was bad, so I didn't play it. And I just want to keep my memory of Road 96 intact. So I
Hardcore.
bought it, but I don't know that I will play it.
Yeah,
So there you go.
absolutely agree. But the art style did remind me very much of that. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes and in what way that twists. But I am super excited for Life is Strange. So there's 3 huge announcements that we got from the Xbox Showcase that I thought were for very different audiences in all the right ways.
Twice. I don't know
Keep
why I
us going,
forgot.
Mayfly, with even more good and exciting news.
I'm gonna, I mean, of course, Life is Strange. I'll go backwards on my list. There was one called Claire Obscure Expedition 33, and which is still to be announced. But it is I believe it is like it's a turn-based RPG set in France about, yeah, Sneaky knows what I'm talking about a paintress who wakes up once a year, paints something on a monolith, it curses people, they die, happens every year. It is these people's like basically goal in the game to go and stop her. And the art looks beautiful. And after falling in love with BG3 and the combat there, and having played Final Fantasy and stuff prior, old Final Fantasy, I guess I should say, and stuff prior, I'm no stranger to turn-based combat at this point in my life. So yeah, I'm very excited for it. I think it looks really good. Avowed, obviously, still hyped for that, been hyped for that for ages. Obviously, Veilguard. I think a lot of people are hyped for Veilguard right now. And then, as Sneaky mentioned in the chat earlier, South of Midnight. I am a huge Compulsion Games fan. I've played their first game, Contrast, and absolutely loved it. And then I played We Happy Few and absolutely loved it and bought the like deluxe edition box with all the goodies in it. My Bobby mask, my police mask, broke during the move. Unfortunately, someone broke it. So I will have to buy a new one. But even with all its flaws and bugs, I absolutely loved it. And so when I found out they were working on something new a couple years after We Have a Few launched, I've been kind of following it pretty closely. So I am pretty pumped for it. So yeah.
I really enjoyed getting to get a look at the gameplay this time because we've seen a lot of trailers and teasers and looks and peeks into the aesthetic they were going for. But this time we got soundtrack, which is really fun. And we got gameplay, which looked really interesting and like something that could compel me to actually play it. So I'm on board with this one. I'm super excited to see where South of Midnight goes. This is one where I wrote to Mayfly in the show notes, like, if you don't talk about this, I'm gonna, because it was a great trailer. But
well, it's like rude. You know my obsession with Compulsion Games.
I knew
How
you'd be
do you
amped
think
for
I
it.
would not talk about this game? Rude, just rude.
I definitely knew you'd be excited, and I was correct. So good. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. So again, I would say that's a big W for Xbox games. I think that it's got a big old thumbs up. It may not have a 2 thumbs up, but it was a great showcase that they really needed. The fact that I got a new Life is Strange game is going to put me over the edge. But even with that aside, we got to look at so many things from Xbox, and I feel like they definitely won that one. Next up was PC Gamer, which a couple that I wanted to highlight out of there. Another one that I only knew to watch because of the fact that, first off, I wanted to support them. It was their 10th anniversary, which was a big deal. PC Gamer having a showcase. But then the second one is that Citizen Sleeper 2 got announced a release date and a teaser and a gameplay teaser and all that sort of stuff. If you don't know, Citizen Sleeper was one of the best games that I've ever played. I enjoyed it so much. The story was fantastic. The lore was next level. And it even has like a D&D style rolling of the dice to actually play the thing.
And I could have finished it. I just have never finished it, Nate.
Yeah. It's real good, and I'm super excited for the second one. I actually, on my backlog, on my like watch writer for YouTube, they've done a series they created a tabletop version. And so they've done like a TTRPG of their actual play of Citizen Sleeper 2 live action, essentially. So I'm super curious to see what he continues to do. I think my bad. Gareth continues to do, because they are fascinating developers, and the way that they put so much lore into a game that most people would consider so very, very boring. I mean, it's words and dice. Like, I can't imagine, but somehow they made it just next level, and it was fantastic. We also got another look at All Systems Dance. This is one that kind of has continued to pervade. If you liked Crypt of the Necrodancer, any of those types of games, it looks like a more 3D polished version of one of those. And then we got yet another look at Demon School, which is another demo that I will probably end up playing over Next Fest. So to continue to expedite through this process, I'm not going to tell you about it, but tell you that maybe we'll be playing a demo of it soon. After that was the Ubisoft Direct, which is one that both Mayfly and I do not care about. I'm going to talk about two things that I thought were good for the gaming world, I suppose. Good for the gander, maybe. Star Wars Outlaws, we got another look at that, which is, of course, coming out in August. So this was kind of a last look at this one before we know how it's actually going to be. And it looked great. I mean, it's a very well-polished game. I'm sure they're going to Ubisoft the heck out of it. And if you're into that Ubisoft style of game, then maybe you're going to love it. If you're into Star Wars, maybe you're going to love it. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I end up picking this one up or not, or if this just is one that I end up watching. And then, of course, the much anticipated X Defiant got another look. And I think maybe the official layup of season 1, they just talked about everything that was going to be happening for season 1. So that is their entry into the FPS looter shooter kind of game. This is their Valorant, their experience that they want people to get into. So we'll see if it actually wins or if it is yet another fizzle. I did see the finals at another one of these. I think it was at the Summer Game Fest, and I was like, man, the finals? People are still talking about the finals? I guess people are playing, but I just had no idea. And then last but not least, IGN Live. This wasn't actually a part of Summer Game Fest. This was their own thing that happened at the exact same time, which is weird, but they did it. The two big things is I'll encourage you to go look up the indie.io showcase. So I have a similar enthusiasm for this as I do for the Blumhouse games. And Outer Sloth, this is a new indie publisher who is publishing a lot of games and upstarts. And I just love to see these indies getting a chance, even if it is just the one game, or if it's not as much of a chance as they might have gotten at a AAA studio. The fact that all of these folks that are undoubtedly losing their jobs and then going back out into the scene are able to create indie games and be supported by the industry, I just love to see it. And then if you know me and my love of anime, you know that I particularly enjoyed an anime called Bartender Glass of God, and that got a shout out and a watch along during IGN Live. And so we love to see that. All right, last thing, Mayfly, before we close out this 50-minute long segment.
Also, IGN Live got to talk to some people from Critical Role for the release date for Legends of Vox Machina Season 3. And if any of y'all know me, you know that half, if not all of my clothing is Critical Role merch. I just happen to not be wearing some today because it's all dirty and needs to be washed. So I'm very excited for that. I'm very, very, very pumped for that. I have to rewatch Season 1 and Season 2. But I got till October, so I'm good.
You got it. Love it. Yeah, this IGN Live reminded me a whole lot of Netflix's Geeked Week. It was kind of a whole mixture that ran the whole gamut of literally everything from Legends of Vox Machina to indie games to actual anime. So what are we doing here? Nobody knew. It was all over the place. I saw Sonic a lot. I didn't know why Sonic was there so much, but apparently the Hedgehog was just real involved with IGN this time. So curious stuff from them. With that, we are miraculously going to move on to our next news story.
IKEA will pay people £13.15 per hour to work in a new virtual store within Roblox called The Coworker Game. Launching on June 24th, this game lets players experience working in IKEA's virtual environment, reflecting the company's unique career philosophy of non-linear paths and department shifts. 10 successful applicants who must be 18 or older and reside in the UK or Republic of Ireland will help customers work in various store sections and even serve meatballs. Lovely. Applications are open until June 16th with virtual interviews from June 14th to June 18th. This initiative aligns with the London Living Wage and showcases IKEA's commitment to innovative career growth. I understand what they're doing.
Oh, sure.
However, these kids are never actually going to be mentally or physically prepared to work in an actual store environment doing it at a computer. That like they're just not. I could never deal with people on the phones like I deal with them now had I not had people scream at me in person when I was 16 or throw change and drinks at me. Not saying people should do that, but that's what people do. Like, and you don't get used to that type of rudeness from people, you know. It's different, right? Because people are terrible sometimes. Not that they should be, but they are. And I understand what they're doing and I respect what they're doing. I just don't think that they're accurately preparing these kids for like actual physical customer service jobs.
Yeah. I mean, I think they can say all that they want, that this is a nonlinear path and that this is trying to innovate in their careers and this is trying to figure out new ways. But I think I might push back and say that I think that this is a publicity stunt. Like, it's just 10 people and it's probably going to only be 10 people for like a month. And this feels very realistic because they're doing applications, they're doing all these things. But I smell clickbait, and we'll find out if this actually continues and goes anywhere. But I think that this is probably just something because, hey, Roblox allows this for whatever reason. And it sounds really funny to hear that IKEA is in Roblox and that they're hiring people and that they're paying people an actual wage. That's hilarious. And so I guarantee you, that's probably more than anything what this is going to end up being. And we will not hear anything else about this. Like, it's not going to be IKEA is now opening up another 20 positions and IKEA is now expanding into the US market and they're going to hire more people. You know, that's not the case. I have a feeling this is a one-time thing to hear, oh, IKEA is still relevant and they're going to start selling stuff probably more online or maybe even through Roblox and eventually eliminate the kiosk workers. So that's my skepticism coming out with this one. But I think that in a world where we're already trying to push back against AI doing everything, this is just another instance of IKEA trying to stay relevant. I totally agree with Sugar Haiku that this being on a resume is hilarious. And 10 people, again, even with my skepticism that this is just a publicity stunt that'll last a month or two, technically those 10 people will be able to. Well,
that says 10 successful applicants, though. That means that out of however many applicants they actually got, they chose 10. So 10 people were successful.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
We'll definitely see. I definitely agree that there is a need for figuring out how to enter into the workforce and the environment and that kind of thing. There's only 10 people who showed up. 10 people successfully made it there. Yeah, hilarious. I think that, again, I think this is a big publicity stunt, but we'll see if it continues to go anywhere. I think it's for the memes and for the news and for the publicity to get people to go shop at IKEA again, because first time I've heard of IKEA in a while. You know, I don't really have one anywhere near me and I don't see them on the internet too often, but all of a sudden they're on every single nerdy news site because of the fact that they're on Roblox. So time will tell with that one. With that, something that makes me boil with rage, indie game developer Kinda Nice recently discovered that fellow developer Terry Brash had cloned his game Dire Decks after the two had shared advice back in 2023. Brash introduced his new game Wildcard as a clone of Dire Decks using new art and original code. When confronted, Brash responded that copying games, quote, happens every day, homie, end quote, and offered an inspiration credit, which Kinda Nice rejected. Despite being asked to remove Wildcard from Steam, Brash refused, showing little concern for potential damage to his reputation. Kinda Nice is now considering a copyright claim as he prepares to release Dire Decks on Steam. I followed this live as it was happening on Twitter. It was nasty. It was brutal. And the last I saw, Terry Brash has not backed off even a little bit. I don't even necessarily disagree with what he said, that it does happen every day. But just because something happens doesn't make it ethical and certainly doesn't make it reasonable. And especially if you had a relationship of some sort, even if it was just a quick professional bouncing ideas or whatever, this is so gross. So I didn't prepare an example and I should have, but I'll encourage you to memorize this image right here that says Dire Decks and go look up Wildcard. And it's it's pretty gross. Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, neat, a deck building shooter, like that's a pretty neat idea, but literally the exact same like assets, the exact same colors, the exact same like font. Like, he didn't change a thing. And granted, he did say that he changed and did an original code, but like, maybe also change the hex code just a little bit, change the colors even the slightest bit. Don't make it a straight direct ripoff of the thing. I don't know. Cloning, it feels like if shovelware could talk. You know, the best part of shovelware is that there was no one owning it. It was just a thing that was being foisted upon us. But this is like somebody being like, yeah, I did make this shovelware and I'm proud of it. Bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, at least on Kind of Nice's end, as long as they've got stuff to back up how long they've been working on this, they've got a strong court case. Like, they've got a strong copyright case. Because even if Brash's game came out first, how long, if they've got text messages, if they've got assets from, however far back this goes, they've got a stronger court case to get Brash is taken down, which is at this point kind of all you can really hope for.
Well, I think what makes it worse is that it's out. It's not out on Steam, but Dire Decks has been out on itch for like a year. And so it's been in the world. And I think that's why they probably notated like the original code sentiment, is because I think the original claim was this dude just straight up ripped off what I did and copy pasted the code. But according to Terry Brash, no, it's my code. It's just a improvement upon your game. And so that is what has sort of come out of this, but it's pretty disgusting and a pretty bad practice in a thing where we're already seeing some gross stuff happen. The way that I first found it was I just finished playing, oh gosh, what was the name of the game? Hypnospace Outlaw. And so I followed the Hypnospace Outlaw dev, and he retweeted all of this drama and essentially said like, oh, thank goodness, I don't have to be quite as scared of AI taking my job because I'm just reminded there are horrible people out there too. Pretty great got him, because good point. Like, we talk about the grossness of all that stuff, and this is another instance of just people that are bad actors making the world even more frightening of a place for the professionals and those that are pursuing the creative arts.
I had people do that to me with my art in high school. I'd do a painting. I'd spend 6-8 hours on it. They'd be drying in the art room. I'd come back, the next day or 2 days later, and there would be like a cheap knockoff of it from like a sophomore or a freshman. It'd make me so mad. So people just do it,
People do it. It's ridiculous, and I hope that at the very least, why does this keep auto going? It's driving me crazy. Hang on, I got to see if I can figure this out, because it's about to. I've undoubtedly pressed play somehow, and I don't know how. Oh, no.
Oh, we're going backwards in time, y'all.
I know I don't want you to see anything you're not supposed to see.
Oh,
okay. Hopefully we're good now. We'll find out, won't we? Anyway, that will be a great transition into our next story and our last of our main news stories. I'm going to go through this relatively quick because I think that we need to get into the rest of the show. And I don't know about you, Mayfly. I'm not the person that should be talking about Apple. And I will be nothing but a hater and petty, and I don't want to be that. So the Worldwide Developer Conference happened just not too long ago, and there were a slew of announcements of different things that have been. If you don't know about the Worldwide Developers Conference, this is something that happens once a year. It's a big deal for Apple, where they kind of announce all of the things that then people can anticipate in September. Apple TV celebrated their 5-year anniversary with an announcement of a bunch of new shows and things like that. We also got another look at the latest OS for the Vision Pro, Vision OS 2, and also an announcement that we'll be getting an international launch, which is something that I actually didn't know it wasn't international, but apparently it will now be. The Vision Pro will be releasing internationally, so I don't know if people are maybe importing it. I don't know the situation, but Now it's going to be everywhere. We also got a sneak peek at the iOS 18, which again, I'm going to just read the things and not give any snark, but you can now arrange icons in iOS 18. You can also have icons change color with dark mode. You can control smart devices from an intended app now, and you can lock down apps. So you can make it so that apps have passcodes to get into them. And then importantly, this was probably the one that I think was the best for security purposes. You can message from satellite. So if your phone dies or anything like that, or you're in a place with really bad service, this is a new feature where essentially, you know how no matter where you are, if you press the emergency button on your Apple Watch or whatever, you can contact the police. Essentially, that's going to also be now a messages feature. So pretty interesting stuff there. The AirPods added a couple new gestures. The one that everybody keeps memeing on is that Siri will pop into your ear and say, you have a phone call. Would you like to answer? And you can either nod yes to answer or shake your head no and hang up, which is silly, but sure. Apple Insight is also being added to Apple TV. If you have Amazon Prime, you're probably familiar with that kind of X-ray feature where they show you all of the IMDb facts about who's in this and what are the things they're in. Apple will now be getting one of their own that looks very similar. WatchOS, there were really no updates. The iPad OS, gonna say my snark, y'all got a calculator at long last. Mac OS Sequoia got announced with some iPhone mirroring, which is very cool. The ability to mirror your phone onto your computer is something that I use relatively frequently. I have been for a while. And Metal Gaming API is going to be another way that Mac continues to get into the gaming scene. They did feature a few games on there and talk about it a little bit. So we'd love to see that. And then the big twist of the night that everybody was anticipating for a long time that we all knew was going to happen was Apple has officially announced their entry into the artificial intelligence scene with Apple Intelligence. They are partnered with OpenAI, which are the people behind ChatGPT. A couple of the things that they announced that were going to be highlighted were notification ranking is now going to be done by AI. So instead of having to swipe through all of your notifications, it's going to pump the most important ones to the front. It'll also auto-generate messages, which is very standard AI at this point. Siri is going to be getting some improvements on the way that she interacts. They also made some big promises with privacy, which is a major concern with a lot of putting information like your text messages and things like that onto the AI scene. Everything that's done on device is supposedly going to be held in security by the NPU, the neural processing unit that has always existed on iPhone for the past couple generations. It will now be holding all the information in there and will be securely kept on your personal device, or you can choose to keep it on the off-device cloud of the private cloud compute that they launched. So time will tell how that one goes. I think that privacy is just one of those concerns that I am very appreciative of the fact that you really don't have to use AI on a phone. If you want to use it, you can use it through your browser, and even then, your security is what your security is, and you just better hope that things are good and you don't give it too many permissions. All that sort of stuff that gamers have known for a long time. And you are now going to be able to access Siri through a text command that is powered by AI. And the arguably coolest thing of the night, which I think maybe had to do with the calculator app coming to the iPad at long last, is AI math, where you essentially get a piece of paper on the screen. You can write out equations. AI will read the equation and do the math for you. So it's just another way of computing, but via written computing, which is pretty neat. And I think that's something we'll probably see debut just about everywhere now that we know that it exists in one platform. That's kind of the way AI works. So be curious to see, but that was the full suite of the Worldwide Developers Conference. I have seen the Apple fanboys thinking that it was quite a good one and was quite a pivotal one. I do think that Apple Intelligence is definitely pivotal, but the other things were kind of just standard, like, all right, good luck catching up, kind of just the same old thing. But Apple Intelligence was the big swing that I think we were wondering if Apple was even gonna do. Any thoughts on that one, Mayfly?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really, I feel like we need to bring one of our Apple peeps on for the next time we talk about Apple to make sure that we have somebody here that does care.
Also, I swear my iPad has a calculator app.
I'm convinced that
You're telling me that my iPad 6th gen does not have a calculator app?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I have not had an iPad ever. But whenever I switched from Apple to Android, I don't even know if the iPad was a thing. It was definitely a thing, but it was not far enough along that I was there. We're doing a live check. We're gonna get we're gonna get one of those little fact check blurbs up top. And I use Apple, but I would rather be on Android. I use what my hubby uses, and he has to use Apple because of work. Boo. I try my best because I see that my role as it, does it not? Does it straight up not?
No, it does not.
You got one coming. It'll be here soon.
It does not. It's just a calendar.
You'll eventually get a calculator app. It's on its way.
That's wild. I never
It's pretty
noticed
silly.
that before.
Apple just makes some really funny decisions, but I try my best as a pastor and as a pastoral role. I don't want to be too salty about Apple. What I do is really just try to brush it aside whenever they give Android a lot of shade, but I can't say much, because if I say anything at all, then I'll be mean, and I don't want to be mean because I love people that love Apple.
That. That's crazy.
Yeah,
It's
pretty
so
wild.
weird.
So they're getting one, and it even has additional features if you turn it landscape. You get even more buttons than you might get on your portrait mode.
Wow.
How exciting, folks. Let us know your thoughts about the WWDC. Did you enjoy it? Did you watch it? Was it for you or not so much? I will say they do always polish it up, and it is a very impressive looking showcase, and I super enjoy that aspect of it. And I enjoy watching it every year just to see what might be happening, and if there is anything that is going to truly blow my mind, we shall find out. With that, we're going to get into our...
Tell me about that, huh? Tell me about that, Trombone.
It's not mid, it's great. It's great. With that, we're going to be getting into our next segment of the show, which is, of course, Cryptic Critiques. It's time for everyone's favorite game show, Cryptic Critiques. This is the game show of bad reviews for beloved games. I have scoured the internet to find 3 of the funniest bad reviews that I could for popular games, and I'm going to deliver them one at a time to our special guest of the week. Play along with us and see if you can figure it out before clue number 3. But if you're watching with us live, remember not to send your guesses until the guest gets to give their final choice at the end of the 3rd prompt. All right, are you prepared for this one, Mayfly?
My track record's pretty good, so I'm going to say yes.
I think you got it. I think you're going to get it. I think this is going to be a good one. Prompt number 1. We're going to go ahead and give the big read. Again, these are 1-star reviews of much beloved games. Prompt number 1. Just want to say, this game's box art sucks. Just want to say, this game's box art sucks. That is the worthy of a 1-star review, apparently, just the box art alone. I think maybe some memeing might have been going on there, but it was a review and it does exist. Anything just based off that one alone?
No.
There's lots of bad box art out there. It could be just about anything. It could be Mega Man, right? We've got some classics that have some real bad box art. You got the full range. Prompt number 2.
Yeah, but I know you tailor these, so.
You never know.
Oh.
Maybe I'll get the hype after another 200 hours. Prompt number 2. Maybe I'll get the hype after another 200 hours. All right, so we've got the box art sucks and 200 hours to get the hype. What do you think?
It's interesting because if I'm correct about this, then that means the first review would have been released. If they're actually talking about legitimate box art, then the first review would have come after the physical editions went out, because the physical editions didn't actually go out. Like, I didn't get mine until like January or February.
These reviews were pulled last week. So, I mean, they could be as recent. I don't check the dates.
Why would they spend... It's probably BG3.
All right, let's read prompt number 3 and see if you stick on to that response. Prompt number 3 is a 2-parter. D&D sucks, LOL. That's just to rage bait you a little bit. But then they did make an edit. Have to respect a game that lets you kill every character you don't like. So they did bump up their review a little bit upon the edit, but I think it was a 1-star review because they're not a big fan of D&D as a system. I'm sure you figured it out that your second guess was indeed correct. It is Baldur's Gate 3, and just had to get these in there. I actually made this one for you the last time that you were supposed to come on, and we swapped out with Sneaky. And so this has been a little while in the making, but I've been very excited because I wholeheartedly agree with that first one. I do not like the box art. And as much as I enjoyed this game, it didn't do anything for me. And one of the reasons that it took me so long to get into this game was the box art. I love
that. I want that as a disc plate.
I don't know what it is about it for me. It
I
doesn't do
love
it. It
that.
doesn't interest me. It looks like a game that I wouldn't play.
I want
And
that
then whenever I
as
played it, I was like, oh, I regret not having played this because of the box art. So that one definitely got my goat and had to be something that I mentioned.
No, I figured it was BG3 off the first one, and then the second one kind of really confirmed it, and that's when I made my guess. And then
Yeah.
obviously the third one really
You locked it down. Your good record indeed continues. So let us know if you got that one. Who got it in time? Did you get it by the first one, second one, or did it take you until the third? Let us know how you feel about that one. Always love a good round of Cryptic Critiques. So chats in the clap. Chats and clap for Mayfly, snagging it yet again. We love to see it. Love to see those horoscopes spamming in the chat as well. With that, we're going to get into our next segment of the show. Right, it's time for To the Discord. These are news stories submitted by you for you. This is from our Discord community. If you're ever interested in joining our Discord, discord.gg/checkpointchurch or !Discord in our Twitch chat, we would love to welcome you into that space that is our digital church building, where we are always hanging out. So the first one was submitted by, and this was actually a little over a week ago, so I'm fudging a little bit, but this was too cool not to talk about. A Taiwanese man helped stop a knife fight on the Taichung Metro, inspired by his anime hero Himmel from Free Run Beyond Journey's End. On May 21st, 2024, Zhu was one of 17 civilians who intervened to stop a man who injured 3 people on the train. Accepting an award for his bravery, Zhu identified as an otaku and credited Himmel for his actions, stating, if Himmel was there, he would have done the same thing. Zhu hopes his actions will improve public perception of otakus. Freerun follows an elven mage under party leader Himmel, who defeated the Demon King and brought peace, emphasizing contemplation over action. This story is amazing. I love everything about it. It's a heart warmer. It's a heart wrencher. It's always good to see an otaku doing good and not just being a neat, living alone and watching anime all the time, but instead being the hero to step in. I have long waxed poetic about the goodness that is Freerun, and now Freerun has saved a life, y'all. So it's officially maybe one of the best anime of all time. It is a life-saving anime. So now we have to all agree. We love to see it. What do you think about this one, Mayfly? Other than just amazing. Aw.
I read that. That's so sweet. I mean, not obviously sweet that somebody was attacking people on a train, but like,
of course,
sweet that like, I don't know, as a kid, fiction makes you think you can do anything, but a lot of people lose that as adults. But I like that there are some people that, you know, when they're put in tough situations, they still have that. That must be nice. I want whatever he's having.
Right. Well, and I think that there's something to Checkpoint as the thing that exists and does the nerdy sermons every single Sunday talking about cool people from anime and video games and how we can be more like them. Like this felt kind of prescient. Like it felt like something that was kind of like, oh, somebody takes it very seriously and we love to hear it. And so, I was especially inspired and encouraged to be like, there is something to what Checkpoint does, tapping into pop culture as a means of being better people. And we love to see it. Definitely not what would Nerd Pastor Nate do. This is a WWHD, what would Himmel do situation, but I'll take it. What would Nerd Pastor Nate do in this situation would be do good, do no harm, and strive to grow. That would be, I'd follow my rules as best as I possibly can. And the rules we follow here at Checkpoint. So good stuff. Love to see this and love to see Himmel the hero approaching us in real life. Next up.
We kind of touched on this earlier. Phil Spencer, head of Xbox, recently addressed the wave of studio closures within the company, including the unexpected shutdown of Tango Gameworks, which developed Hi-Fi Rush. In May, Microsoft announced the closure of Tango Gameworks, Arcane Austin. I had a teacher in college who worked there. Alpha Dog Games and Roundhouse Studios, all acquired in the 2021 Bethesda buyout. The news sparked backlash, particularly because Tango Gameworks had been successful with titles like Hi-Fi Rush and the Evil Within series. How did I not know that they did Evil? I think I did know that.
That's because Hi-Fi Rush was so shocking coming from them.
Yeah. I think that's why I maybe forgot. Spencer explained that the closures were tough but necessary decisions to maintain Xbox's profitability. He emphasized his focus on supporting laid-off staff through severance and other measures, stating, I have to run a sustainable business inside the company and grow. The decision to close these studios was not taken lightly, but Spencer stressed the importance of making difficult choices to ensure the company's future. The closures, especially following rumors of potential sequels for games like Dishonored and Hi-Fi Rush, have drawn criticism from industry figures like Deathloop creator Dinga Bakaba, who underscored the need to support talented developers, particularly after releasing successful games. I will say on that last note, the director of Deathloop, I feel like, should not particularly be the one talking about developers making super successful games. Because I remember, if I remember correctly, Deathloop didn't do super, super well.
It was very hyped. But
it was very hyped, but it didn't do very well. And I remember I tried to play it. This is not saying anything, but I tried to play it, and I was like, "This is."
Yeah, I've often.
And I feel like I wasted my money on it. Like, I don't think it actually was very profitable for them at all. It was super overhyped, and then it super under delivered. So that was just a caveat to that last point.
Yeah. It is an interesting commentary, to see that name kind of pop up. I think that this whole thing is hopefully, I don't know. I feel like now that we're finally addressing it and we're starting to have conversations about it, and Phil Spencer and their finance advisor people are starting to say more, maybe that means that we're finally towards the end of you've been through a rough season, but I don't know. I remain, that's just kind of my hopeful clarion call and not really my expectation of the industry. I don't know. I'm very curious to see if we continue to hear from Phil Spencer in particular about this, because this is something that he's a pretty outspoken figurehead of the gaming industry and does a lot and says a lot. And he's been pretty quiet for the past little while as these closures have happened again and again. Really, ever since the acquisition, I feel like Phil Spencer kind of rode on the back seat for a little while. And so maybe since he's finally coming back to the fray, they've sort of sifted through the sand of what they want to do with their acquisition and the things that they've done. And maybe their board has finally made some decisions and they're ready to persevere to the next thing. Because there sure are a lot of rumors of Xbox stuff that's going to be happening, new console, not new console, but new hardware and handheld hardware and things like that. So there's a big future potentially for Xbox, but I don't know. I remain sad to see the consequences of such a tenuous acquisition. I've given my sass a couple weeks ago of these things are expensive. And I'm like, how expensive could they have, I don't know, used $67 billion to put towards it? I'm skeptical of the money excuse again and again, especially whenever it comes to games like a Hi-Fi Rush that no doubt, granted it was on Game Pass, and so maybe it wasn't the biggest cash cow in the world, but it can't have been nothing. It was too big of a deal to be nothing. And so it had to have been a drop in the bucket and a percentage of what they brought in. And so to see them cast aside is the disappointing thing. But we could continue to bury this into the ground, but I wanted to give some hopeful news that relates to this one. This was also posted by Twyla. If you missed this, I'm going to enlarge it here in just a second. But during Summer Game Fest in Los Angeles, New Blood Interactive put up a billboard paying tribute to the many video game studios that have shut down over the past year. The billboard, displayed prominently in downtown LA, lists names like Arcane Austin, Roll7, Tango Gameworks, Volition Inc., and London Studio with a heartfelt message, gone but not forgotten. It also honors everyone who's been laid off or downsized, ending with, "We love you, we miss you, we hate money." This gesture has been warmly received by industry professionals, highlighting the ongoing issues of studio closures and layoffs while offering solidarity and support to those affected. So there you go. If you haven't seen this one yet, I'll boost it up a little again, but it's pretty much just what we read just now. But this was an incredible thing to see, especially at Summer Game Fest. I don't know if it was because of this or if he had already planned on mentioning it, but another knock in the belt of Summer Game Fest this year, Jeff Keighley started the show by talking about layoffs and addressing it, which has been everyone's skepticism of Jeff Keighley for years now, is that he won't talk about it. He talked about it. And so it's huge. It's huge. This has been, I think it either shows that finally we're kind of getting the big picture of just how traumatic this has been to the industry, or it's gotten to a boiling point that even somebody who tries to keep it buttoned up had to say something. This is a big deal, and it has continued to be a big deal. And I love this. This warms my heart. And it makes me feel good to see that what is it? Who is it? New Blood Interactive was willing to shell out what it might take to be an encouraging and inspiring and hopeful voice in the midst of this. This is good work. This is doing good. This is an instance of doing good in our rules. This is something that we ought to do to inspire hope and lift up others. We love it. Any thoughts on this one, Mayfly, before we move on to the next segment?
No, it's good. It's sweet, and it's what is needed right now. And I think they knew that. That's why they did it.
Absolutely.
So.
With that, we're going to move into our next segment of the show, my personal favorite.
At this point in nerd history.
That's right. It's at this point in nerd history. We do have a couple thrown in there that are not quite as nerdy as much as just kind of interesting factoids there at the end. But we're going to go through everything that was released, games, movies, and then some random ones on this day throughout time and space. So June 11th. What games came out? 2007, Big Brain Academy Wii Degree was released in the US.
2006, the Nintendo DS redesign, the DS Lite, is released in the United States. I remember because I got one for Christmas. 2001, the Game Boy Advance is released in the United States. Along with it were hit launch titles such as Super Mario Advance and F-Zero Maximum Velocity. I very vaguely remember that one as well because I think my sister got one for Christmas.
Mm-hmm. I definitely had one. I had the transparent purple Game Boy Advance, and I had the black DS Lite. I had the original brick DS that was gray, and then wound up getting the black DS Lite. And then I never got a DSi, and I was so jealous of my friends who had the DSi, so I wound up skipping that one, but good stuff there. 1999, Mario Golf for the Nintendo 64 was released in Japan. That is all of our games that were released. Movies in 2010, The Karate Kid with Jaden Smith was released on the same day as the A-Team reboot. So pretty fun little double feature there. And then in 2004, a maybe movie that you might have missed or maybe memed on, The Chronicles of Riddick, the video game adaptation with Vin Diesel, was released.
In 1993, Spielberg's Jurassic Park opened. And in 1982, another Spielberg, E.T. opened in theaters.
Yeah, you can see those summer blockbusters of the Spielberg movie happening here on June 11th. Some random facts. We are Methodists. We're not Presbyterians, but I thought it was interesting to throw in 1936 that the Presbyterian Church of America was formed in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on this day. And then some of you may be American as well and know that in America, the Continental Congress had just finished drafting a Declaration of Independence in 1776, and we are going to celebrate the official pinning of it. But the draft was completed on June 11th in 1776. Fun facts, interesting things to learn. Let me know if you liked any of those fun facts or if any of them stood out for you in particular, or if you know of any fun facts of things that happened on June 11th throughout time and space. But with that, we're going to move into our next and penultimate segment of the show. This is upcoming releases where me and my guests are going to talk about 3 things we're excited about happening in roughly the next week or so. My first one is happening right now, and it's going to be happening immediately after this video. We're going to hop over into the Discord, and I'm going to go pick out some demos for Next Fest, which is a week-long festival that happens over on Steam throughout the actual Steam launcher, in which there are over 1,000, almost 2,000 demos released for the course of the week that you can go and play through of upcoming games. Good stuff. What's one of yours, Mayfly?
The Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 and 2.5 remix comes out on Thursday on Steam, which is very exciting. Yes,
Kingdom Hearts on Steam is very cool.
Yeah.
Love it. My second one is, I mentioned Shin Megami Tensei a little bit earlier. I have not played SMT5, but we are getting Vengeance, which I think is like what they do with Persona games where they release like the Royal version. And so it's like a more realized version of SMT5 with DLC included, like an extra story at the end. I don't know if that's the case or not. It could be, I could be completely off, but this is hopefully what will eventually get me into SMT5 because I want to play it in general.
Next one for me is, I think I talked about this like quite a few twigs ago or something, like ages ago. But Tavern Talk, which is the D&D version of Coffee Talk, is finally releasing next week on the 20th.
Yes.
So planned release is the 20th. So Coffee Talk wasn't super on my like aesthetic vibes, but this is very much more my aesthetic vibes. So I
Love
will
it.
more than likely play this one.
Yeah, I'm curious to know how the writing turns out, because that was definitely Coffee Talk was the like music aesthetic and then the writing that made it. And so I'm curious to know if this one holds up in that way. And I'm certain that we will get plenty of reviews right around the corner, and I'll get to look for those specific things and see if they stand out to me. My third and final upcoming thing is I'm super excited about Inside Out 2. I enjoyed the first one, and maybe I'm going to look up some more like thoughts on the language of the movie, because it is PG, which doesn't necessarily mean that there's a lot of language, but it could be. But I loved Inside Out, and I want to watch the second one with Nora. So hopefully I will take Nora and we'll get to go see that movie together. It's been a while since I've watched a movie with Nora. I think the last one was the Mario movie. So I enjoy going to the theater with her, and that would be a super fun time.
My last one is another game, because that's all I really pay attention to. And sometimes not even that. It's called Still Wakes the Deep. It comes out on the 18th. It is a first-person narrative horror game. Offshore oil rig, spooky, scary skeletons. Looks terrifying. No combat. Great. It looks awful. It looks like it would scare the pants off you, Nate. So it looks like you should play it.
Love it. That's great. We got some good stuff coming up there. I did want to answer Chris's question there. Is it the same creator? No. So Fami has passed. And so Coffee Talk has completed its tenure. And as I mentioned, back with some of the Summer Game Fest stuff, After Love EP it will be his final posthumous work as far as I know. But Tavern Talk is very clearly inspired by. And
it's very inspired.
Being developed by Gentle Troll Entertainment, who I don't know anything about. So again, that's why I say I'm excited for it. I'm excited for something that's inspired by a game that I absolutely love, but I could also see it being kind of a swing and a miss. We'll just see. I'm definitely down to try. And I do enjoy the aesthetic and the attempt at it regardless. So good stuff. Let us know what you might be excited about coming out in the next week, or if any of our three things each happened to get your attention. But with that, we're going to move into our final segment of the show. Meme of the week. Right, it's time for our meme of the week. The meme of the week is a user-generated content, not generated, I guess, user-supplied content over on our meme of the week section, memes and goofs on our Discord. We pick the one that typically gets the most reactions. I'll let you know, Sneaky, me and you tied, and I don't always pick mine, Trombone. I don't always pick mine. Sometimes I pick somebody else's, and this time I picked Sneaky. So Sneaky submitted this meme to us this week of Samson. I related to this so hardcore, not only because my cat's name is Samson, for those of you that don't know. So people in the Bible struggle with the same challenges we face today. Here we see Samson trying to give his cat a pill. Friends, if you are not a pet owner, I relate to this, whether it's a cat or a dog. If you have ever tried to give an animal a pill, talk about a nightmare. You got to get real creative, especially if you have the one dog on planet Earth who doesn't like peanut butter or cheese. You gotta get real creative on how that works. And yeah, sometimes you just gotta pry their jaws open. The story does not end well for the lion there. So we'll just imagine that they just get the pill and that everything goes well. So good stuff. W meme, as Z would say. Excellent stuff there. We love it. 2 thumbs ups from me. I'm sure you can't imagine that at all, Mayfly, with your umpteen animals and dogs and 20-pounders.
Yeah. Thankfully, the not 20-pounder, who is now another year older, because I found out on your birthday that is the day that we got her, according to my phone. She's not sick or anything, so she doesn't need any sort of medication. So everybody that I've got currently is healthy. So no meds, which is great. Yes, it is a menagerie, Trombone. You're correct. 2 dogs, a ferret, a lizard, a tarantula. Yep.
Love it. All right. Well, if you would like to be considered for Meme of the Week, be sure to use our memes and goofs section of our Discord. We would love to have you over in that space, folks. As we wrap up the show, again, I want to invite you over to our Discord server where we're going to be hanging out for the next little while. But before we head out, I'm going to let our guest, Mayfly, tell us what they've been up to, shout out any of that kind of stuff at the end of the show.
I only exist on Discord and on the ethereal plane. So if you can't find me on Discord, I'll see you somewhere on the ethereal plane.
Love it. Awesome. We're going to wrap up, folks. This has been Twig, your weekly, geekly, family-friendly news show delivered live on twitch.tv/checkpointchurch each and every week, keeping your family connected to the world of nerdy news. If you watched this far, and thank you for making it through a 50-minute segment about the past week of showcases, then you likely enjoyed this one. So remember to give us a 5-star on your podcasting app. Click that like button. Recommend the show to all of your favorite nerds. Folks, as always, we appreciate everyone that supports this show with their views or with their follows. We want to give a special shout out to the folks that have subscribed to us over on Twitch. So thank you to our subscribers: Perspective, Trombone Dalek, Xando Calrissian, Acre Dawnbringer, Mindful Marlena, Ed Dude, 3452, Sugar Haiku, Weesh, Hman 1009, Maybe 30 Bats, Nerd Pastor Nate, X Mayfly, DGC 12, 1996, Duchess 1105, Fool Killer 29, Strange Dun, Gobi Church, Sneaky Pig 633, Teeny Christina P, Twyla 27, Deacon Shannon LS, Wizen Lemur, Jate Live, Yakeem 4752, and Coyote 42. Is there going to be Twig next week? Yes, there should be Twig next week. And I think for the next little while, I am thinking about taking a bit of a hiatus. We might have to figure out a different night of the week. So we'll talk more about that in the upcoming dates with Twig. But we will be going for the foreseeable future until maybe we get back to the school system years. But time should be good, folks. We're going to end this one, as we always do, with our 3 things that we believe to be true about every single one of you out there. Number 1, that God loves you, like really, really loves you. Number 2, we love you. We want community with you. That's what we're doing here. Number 3, that you, yes, you matter. You are a person of sacred worth. The world's a better place. Why? Because you are in it. Folks, with that, until the next time that I see you, which will hopefully be right now over in the Discord server in a video call where I'm going to pick out some demos, but it might be on our next stream, or it could just be on our next week of Twig. I look forward to seeing you then. Till next time, bye-bye!